My name is Lena Hartz. I am 35 years old. And 3 months ago, sitting in a restaurant that smelled like truffle oil and old money, my mother handed the $5.2 million business I built from scratch over 12 years to my older sister like it was a birthday gift. It didn't happen with a scream. It didn't happen with a fight. It happened with a smile. We were sitting at Lucia's in downtown Denver. It's the kind of place where they scrape the crumbs off the table between courses, and the wine list is thicker than a novel. My mother, Evelyn, had organized the dinner. She said it was to celebrate the future. I should have known then. I should have seen the way my sister, Rachel, was drinking her wine a little too fast. I should have noticed that my dad, Thomas, wouldn't meet my eyes when we sat down. But I didn't. I was tired. I had just come off a 70-hour week launching a campaign for a national solar energy client. I was thinking about conversion rates and ad spend. I wasn't thinking about betrayal. Then, just as the appetizers were being cleared, my mom reached into her designer bag. She pulled out a thick, cream-colored folder. She didn't slide it to me. She placed it in the center of the table, rested her hand on it, and smiled that practiced bank manager smile I had spent my whole life trying to earn. "We've been doing some estate planning," she said. Her voice was calm, reasonable. "And we've decided that it's time to restructure the ownership of Heartline Digital." I nodded, taking a sip of water. I thought this was it. I thought this was the moment she finally signed the 51% over to me. I thought she was going to say, "Lena, you've done the work. It's yours." Instead, she turned to Rachel. "We've decided your sister will take over as majority owner and CEO effective next month," she said. "It makes sense, Lena. She has the MBA. She has the corporate background. And more importantly, she has the kids. She needs the stability." The room seemed to tilt, the clinking of silverware, the low hum of jazz, the laughter from the next table. It all turned into static. Before I could even process the words, before I could ask what on earth she was talking about, my dad leaned forward. He adjusted his glasses, looking at the tablecloth instead of me, and delivered the sentence that would end our relationship forever. "You'll work under her, Lena. It's the best setup. Rachel needs the income for the family. You're single. You're flexible. You can handle the creative side while she manages the business. She deserves it. She deserves it." I remember my fork hitting the plate with a loud clang. I remember the couple at the next table glancing over. I remember Rachel looking down into her wine glass, trying to hide a smirk that looked terrified and triumphant all at once. 12 years. 12 years of waking up at 4 a.m. 12 years of eating instant noodles so I could make payroll. 12 years of learning tax law and HR compliance and digital strategy on the fly because we couldn't afford consultants. 12 years of building a reputation that turned a laptop in a spare room into a $5 million agency. And in 10 seconds, it was gone. Erased. Reallocated to the golden child because she had a mortgage, and I didn't. I did not cry. I did not flip the table. I didn't scream that Rachel couldn't run a digital agency if you gave her an instruction manual and a head start. I just let out the short, sharp laugh. It sounded like a gunshot in the quiet restaurant. I looked at my mom. "You're serious," I said. "It's done," she replied, her voice hardening just a fraction. "The paperwork is already drafted. We just need your signature to formalize your new employment contract." I nodded slowly, like I was agreeing to a polite business deal. I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped against the hardwood floor. "I'm not signing anything," I said. "Lena, sit down," my dad hissed. "Don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene," I said. "I'm making an exit." I walked out of that restaurant without looking back. I left my coat. I left the dessert I had ordered. I walked out into the cool Denver night, stood on the sidewalk, and looked up at the skyline. They thought I was walking away to cool off. They thought I would call them in the morning, apologize for being dramatic, and show up on Monday ready to report to my older sister. They were wrong. I wasn't walking away to cool off. I was walking away to burn it down. If you want to know how the business they stole from me nearly took them down with it, and how I turned the worst night of my life into the most profitable decision I ever made, you need to understand how we got here. You need to understand that this betrayal wasn't an event. It was a habit. I grew up in a house where love was a currency, and the exchange rate was rigged from the start. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Denver. On the surface, we were the American dream. My dad was a civil engineer who spent his weekends fixing the deck. My mom was a branch manager at a bank, the kind of woman who balanced her checkbook to the penny every Sunday night. And then there was us, the Hart sisters. Rachel was 5 years older. From the day she was born, she was the sun our family orbited around. She was the one with the straight A's, the student council presidency, the prom queen crown. She was the easy child, the one who followed the script. I was the strong one. In family dynamics, strong is just a polite word for neglected. It means they don't have to worry about you, so they don't. If Rachel forgot her lunch, my mom would leave word to drive it to her school. If I forgot mine, my mom would say, "You're smart, Lena. You'll figure it out. Drink some water." If Rachel had a bad day, we had a family meeting about it. If I had a bad day, I was told to stop being so sensitive. It wasn't that they didn't love me. It was just that their love for Rachel was active, loud, and expensive. Their love for me was passive. It was assumed. The gap turned into a canyon when Rachel moved to Chicago after college. She got a corporate job in HR. She married a guy named Mark who worked in finance. They bought a big condo. They looked perfect. My mom flew out there once a month. She helped them decorate. She wired them money for a down payment, calling it an investment in the grandkids' future. When Rachel decided to get an MBA, my parents paid for it. Full ride. She needs the credentials, they said. Meanwhile, I was back in Denver, piecing together my own life with duct tape and grit. When I told my mom I wanted to go to art school for design, she laughed. "That's a hobby, Lena, not a job. We're not paying for finger painting." So I didn't go to art school. I went to a state university on a partial scholarship. I found myself. I worked 3 jobs. I was a barista at 5 a.m., a tutor at 4 p.m., and a freelance graphic designer until 2 a.m. I bought my own laptop. I paid for my own books. When my car broke down during finals week, I walked 3 miles to campus in the snow, because I knew if I called home, I'd just get a lecture on being better with money. I learned early, no one is coming to save you. Then came the shift that sealed my fate. Rachel had her first baby. It was a difficult pregnancy. There were complications. My mom basically moved to Chicago for 3 months. She missed my college graduation because Rachel had a blood pressure scare. "You understand, right?" my dad said, handing me a check for $50 as a graduation gift. "Your sister needs your mom right now. You're the tough one. You'll be fine. You'll be fine." That phrase became the soundtrack of my 20s. While Rachel was building her perfect corporate life on my parents' dime, I was sitting in a noisy co-working space trying to invent a career. I didn't want a boss. I didn't want to beg for a raise. I wanted to build something that no one could take away from me. The irony of that thought hits me hard now. I started Heartline Digital. At first, it was just me. I was designing logos for yoga studios and running Facebook ads for local plumbers. I charged way too little. I worked way too much. I ate cheap tacos and lived in a basement apartment with no windows. But I was good at it. I realized early on that most businesses are terrible at telling their own story. They talk about features, not feelings. I was good at feelings. I knew how to make people care. I started landing bigger clients. A tech startup in Boulder, a real estate firm in Cherry Creek. But I hit a wall. I needed a business bank account. I needed a line of credit to float the expenses while waiting for client checks to clear. I went to the bank, my mom's bank, and applied. I was 22. My credit history was thin. My income was irregular. The loan officer looked at me like I was a child asking for a mortgage on a dollhouse. Denied. That night, I was venting to my mom over dinner. I have the clients, I said, frustrated. I just need the infrastructure. I need the bank to take me seriously. My mom set down her fork. She looked at me with that calm, competent expression she wore when she was fixing a problem. Let me help, she said. What do you mean? I'll co-sign, she said. Actually, better yet, let's set up the LLC properly. We'll put it in my name for now. I have the 800 credit score. I have the history with the bank. We'll get you a credit line, a business card, everything. You run it. It's your company. I'm just the silent foundation. I hesitated. But it would be in your name? Just on paper, Lena, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. It's just paperwork. We're family. This is how we help you. We helped Rachel with the condo. Let us help you with this. I looked at her. I saw my mother. I didn't see a shark. I didn't see a competitor. I saw the woman who packed my lunch sometimes. Okay, I said, let's do it. That was a mistake. That was the mistake. That was the original sin. I signed the papers. Heartline Digital LLC was formed. Majority owner, Evelyn Hart. For the next decade, I worked like a person possessed. The business exploded. We pivoted from small local gigs to high-end digital strategy for climate tech and sustainable brands. It was a boom market, and we were perfectly positioned. I moved us out of the co-working space and into a real office in the arts district. I hired my first employee, then my fifth, then my 10th. I became a different person. I wasn't the quiet sister anymore. I was a CEO. I learned how to negotiate contracts. I learned how to fire people who weren't pulling their weight. I learned how to stand in a boardroom full of men twice my age and command attention. My mom was true to her word at first. She was silent. She'd stop by the office once a month to sign checks or look at the P&L statements. She'd nod, say, "Good job, honey," and leave. Every time we hit a milestone, 1 million in revenue, $3 million, $5 million, she would bring it up at family dinners. Lena is doing so well with the business, she'd say. But she'd always add a qualifier. It's amazing what we've built together. Good thing I set up that banking structure, right? My dad would nod. You two are a great team. It annoyed me, but I brushed it off. I had the keys to the office. I had the passwords. I had the relationships with the clients. I felt safe. Then, life happened. My parents divorced. It wasn't ugly, but it was transactional. They split the assets down the middle. My dad got the retirement accounts. My mom, she kept Heartline. In the divorce proceedings, she argued that Heartline was her asset. She claimed she bore the financial risk. My dad, wanting to keep the peace and assuming I was fine with the arrangement, didn't fight her. It's Lena's business anyway. He told me later. It doesn't matter if it's on Mom's side of the ledger. She'll leave it to you in the will. Then came the catalyst. Victor. My mom met Victor at a wealth management conference. He was a real estate developer from Phoenix, Flashy watch, teeth too white, always talking about leverage and synergy. They got married within a year. Victor took an unusual interest in Heartline. He'd come to the office with my mom. He'd ask questions about our margins. He'd ask about our client retention rates. "You have a lot of cash flow," he said once, looking over my shoulder at a spreadsheet. "You could leverage this, expand, diversify." "I like growing organically," I told him, closing my laptop. "We don't take on debt," he smirked. "That's small thinking, Lena." I didn't know it then, but Victor was underwater. His developments in Phoenix were stalled. He needed liquidity. He needed assets to secure new loans, and he saw Heartline Digital not as a creative agency, but as a golden goose he could mortgage. At the same time, Rachel's life was hitting turbulence. Her husband lost his job. They had overextended themselves on a new, bigger house. They had 3 kids in private school. The perfect life in Chicago was starting to crack. She called my mom crying every day. I knew this because my mom would come into my office, looking stressed, talking about how Rachel is drowning. "We need to help her," Mom would say. "Send her money then," I'd say, distracted by work. "You have the dividends from the company." "It's not enough," Mom said. "She needs a career. She needs stability. She needs a future." I didn't connect the dots. I was too busy landing our biggest client yet, a European EV manufacturer. I was flying to London, taking meetings, building the future. I didn't see that back home my mother and her new husband were rewriting my past. That brings us back to the dinner. When I walked out of Lucia's, I didn't go home. I drove to the office. It was 10 p.m. The cleaning crew was just finishing up. I walked through the bullpen of empty desks. I looked at the awards on the shelf. I looked at the photos of the team retreat in the mountains. I went into my office and closed the door. I sat in the dark for a long time. I let myself feel the grief. It hit me in waves. It wasn't just the business, it was the realization that my parents didn't see me. They saw a worker bee. They saw a placeholder. They saw a steward for Rachel's inheritance. They thought I was reliable. They thought I was safe. They thought I was never blow up the family. But then the grief turned into something else, something cold and hard and sharp. I turned on my computer. I opened the server. I looked at the client list. I looked at the contracts. I knew something my mother didn't. I knew something Rachel definitely didn't. In the digital agency world, clients don't buy a company name. They don't buy an LLC. They buy talent. They buy trust. They buy the person who picks up the phone at 2 a.m. when the website crashes. They buy me. My mother owned the LLC. She owned the desk. She owned the bank account. But she didn't own the relationships. I pulled up my employment contract, the one I had signed 5 years ago, and never updated. I scanned it. My eyes landed on the non-compete clause. It was there. Employee agrees not to solicit clients for a period of 12 months within the state of Colorado. I smiled. Most of our biggest clients, the ones paying us $50,000 a month, retainers, weren't in Colorado. They were in California. They were in New York. They were in London. And the non-compete? It was poorly written. It specified soliciting clients. It didn't say I couldn't accept them if they called me. I checked my bank account. I had $450,000 in liquid savings. I had no debt. I had no mortgage. I did the math. I could run a lean agency for 18 months without making a dime if I had to. I opened a new tab. I went to the Secretary of State's website. I clicked File New LLC. I typed in a name I had been saving in the back of my head for years. A name that meant North Star. A name that meant guidance. Bright North Studio. I hit submit. Then I opened my email. I drafted a resignation letter. To Evelyn Hart, majority owner. C. Rachel Hart. Effective immediately, I am resigning from my position as CEO of Heartline Digital. I have left all company property, passwords, and current project files on the server. I wish the new leadership the best of luck. Regards, Lena. I didn't hit send yet. I spent the next 4 hours doing something purely selfish. I downloaded my personal portfolio. I grabbed the contact lists that were on my personal phone. I wiped my browser history. I cleaned out my desk. I took the photo of me and my team from the wall. I took my favorite mug. At 3 a.m., I stood in the middle of the office one last time. Goodbye, I whispered. I hit send on the email. Then I walked out, locked the door, and dropped my key through the mail slot. The morning after I walked out of my office for the last time, I didn't sleep in. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., just like I always did. But for the first time in 12 years, I didn't check my email. I didn't check the Heartline Slack channel. I didn't look at the daily revenue report. I made a pot of coffee. I sat at my kitchen island, and I watched my phone light up. It started at 7 a.m. Mom calling, Dad calling, Rachel calling. Then the text started. Lena, where are you? The server password isn't working. Clients are emailing about the transition. What did you tell them? Pick up the phone. Stop acting like a child. I didn't block them. I just turned the ringer off. I wasn't acting like a child. I was acting like a competitor. And competitors don't take tech support calls from the opposition. At 9 a.m., I opened my personal laptop. I logged into the new email address I had created 4 hours ago, lena@brightnorthstudio.com. It was empty. A beautiful, terrifying white space. I had no employees. I had no employees. I had no employees. I had no office. All I had was a list of phone numbers in my head and a reputation I had spent a decade building. I started dialing. I didn't call the small local clients. I didn't call the ones based in Denver. I was sticking to the letter of my non-compete, even if I knew a judge would likely throw it out. I called London. The CMO of the EV manufacturer, a man named Julian who terrified most agencies, picked up on the second ring. Lena, he said. His voice was clipped. I just received a very confusing email from your mother. It says you are transitioning to a new role, and that someone named Rachel is taking over our account effective immediately. Who is Rachel? I took a deep breath. This was the moment. This was the cliff. Julian, I said, keeping my voice steady. The email was partially correct. I have left Heartline Digital. I am not transitioning to a new role there. I have launched my own agency, Bright North Studio. There was a silence on the line. I could hear the hum of the London office in the background. I see, he said. And this, Rachel, does she know our brand strategy? Does she know we're launching the Series 4 in 3 weeks? Rachel is my sister, I said. She has a background in HR. I cannot speak to her familiarity with your launch strategy. Another silence. Longer this time. I don't buy agencies, Lena, Julian said finally. I buy execution. I buy you. Send me the contract for Bright North. I want the transition done by end of business today. I have a non-compete, I said, playing the ethical card. I can't solicit you. You didn't solicit me, Julian snapped. I called you. I am firing Heartline. I am hiring you. Send the paperwork. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. One down. The next 3 days were a blur of adrenaline and logistics. I worked from my dining table. I set up payroll systems. I bought a domain. I registered the business with the IRS. I didn't reach out to my team at Heartline. I knew that would be crossing a legal line. I had to let them come to me. I didn't have to wait long. On Thursday, 3 days after I quit, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah, my head of strategy. She had been with me for 6 years. "Lena," she whispered. She sounded like she was hiding in the bathroom. "What is going on?" Rachel just walked into the strategy meeting. She asked us why we spend so much money on user research. She wants us to cut the research budget by 80%. I closed my eyes. It was starting. "Sarah, I can't tell you what to do," I said carefully. "I have a non-solicitation clause." "I don't care about clauses," Sarah said. "I care about my career. The ship is going to sink, Lena. I care about my career. The ship is going to sink, Lena. I can feel it. Are you hiring?" "I don't have an office," I said. "I can't match your current salary yet. I can offer you equity and I can promise you sanity." "I'll take it," she said. "I'm putting in my notice today." By the end of the second week, 5 of my core team members had resigned from Heartline. My creative director, my lead developer, my senior copywriter, and my head of strategy. They walked out of the glass-walled office in the arts district and walked into my living room. We set up card tables. We drank cheap coffee. We worked 14-hour days. And we were happy because, for the first time, we weren't building someone else's legacy. We were building ours. While Bright North was rising from the ashes, Heartline Digital was burning. I didn't have to guess what was happening. Denver is a small town. People talk. I heard stories. I heard that Rachel changed the project management software in her first week because she didn't like the interface, causing 3 deadlines to be missed. I heard that my mom tried to step in and manage client calls, but she kept mixing up the accounts. I heard that Victor, my stepfather, was coming into the office and yelling about overhead. And then I heard about the debt. A friend of mine in commercial banking took me out for a drink about 2 months after I left. He looked nervous. "Lena," he said, "I shouldn't tell you this, but you need to know. Your name is off the loans, right?" "Yes," I said. "I removed myself as an authorized officer the day I quit." "Good," he said, "because Heartline is in default." "Already?" I asked. "It's been 8 weeks. We had cash reserves. Victor drained them," he said. He leveraged the company's receivables to secure a bridge loan for his development in Phoenix. The development is stalled. The bank called the loan. Heartline doesn't have the cash to pay it. I sat back in the booth. I felt a cold knot in my stomach. Not for them, but for the bullet I had just dodged. My mother had handed Rachel a sinking ship. She thought she was giving her a golden parachute. Instead, she gave her an anchor. The collapse happened faster than I expected. 3 months after the dinner, 90 days, I was in my new office modest in that industrial space we had rented in the tech center. It wasn't fancy. The desks were IKEA. The coffee machine was broken. But the energy was electric. We had just signed our 3rd major retainer. We were profitable. My receptionist buzzed me. "Lena," she said, "your family is here." "Who?" "All of them." I walked out to the lobby. They were standing there like a delegation from a defeated nation. My mother looked 10 years older. Her hair wasn't perfectly coiffed. Her suit looked loose. My dad was staring at the floor. Rachel looked like she had been crying for a week straight. And Victor was gone. I learned later he had fled to Arizona when the lawsuits started. "Lena," my mom said, her voice cracked. I crossed my arms. I didn't invite them back to my office. We stood in the lobby, under the neon sign of Bright North Studio. "What do you want?" I asked. "We need help," Rachel whispered. "The bank froze payroll. I can't pay the staff. We have clients threatening to sue us for breach of contract. Julian in London sent a demand letter." "I told you," I said. "I can't help you with Julian. He's my client now." Rachel flinched. "We want you to come back," my mom said. She stepped forward, trying to summon some of her old authority. "We made a mistake, Lena. We admit it. Rachel isn't ready. We need you to step in as CEO. We'll rewrite the contract. You can have equity." "I don't want equity," I said. "I have equity in this company." "Lena, please," my dad said. "The bank is going to foreclose. They're going to take the house. Mom's house, Rachel's house." Victor signed personal guarantees for everything, and he used our assets as collateral. I looked at them. I saw the people who raised me. I saw the people who told me I was resourceful. I saw the people who sat at a dinner table and decided my life was less valuable than my sister's. Because I didn't have children, they wanted me to save them. They wanted me to be the strong one. Again, they wanted me to sacrifice my new life, to fix the wreckage of their greed. I thought about the night at Lucia's. I thought about the smirk. I thought about "You'll work under her." "I can't save Heartline," I said. "It's dead. The reputation is ruined. The talent is gone. The cash is gone. You could buy the assets," Rachel said, desperate. "You could buy the client list, buy the brand, give us enough to pay off the bank loan." It was a tempting offer, to buy back my creation for pennies on the dollar, to own the name Heartline again. But I realized something in that lobby. I didn't want it. Heartline was the past. It was the company built on my mother's credit and my father's permission. It was the company where I was a placeholder. Bright North was mine. "No," I said. My mother gasped. "Lena, we're talking about bankruptcy. We're talking about losing everything." "I know," I said, "and I am sorry. Truly. But I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep you warm anymore." I looked at Rachel. "You wanted to be the CEO. You wanted to be the responsibility. This is what it looks like. It's not just lunch meetings and dividends. It's payroll. It's liability. It's the bank calling at Fourth House, William." I turned to my mom. "You told me to figure it out when I needed tuition money," I said softly. "You told me I was resourceful. Well, I'm telling you the same thing now. You are smart people. You'll figure it out." I turned around. I walked back through the glass doors of my office. I heard my mother calling my name. I heard my dad arguing with the security guard. I kept walking. The aftermath wasn't quiet. It was a demolition. Heartline digital files for Chapter 7 bankruptcy 2 weeks later. It was a liquidation. The furniture, the computers, the awards, it was all sold at auction. My mom lost her house. The bank took it to satisfy the business loans. She moved into a small apartment in a retirement community. She works part-time as a teller now. Rachel's husband divorced her. The stress of the financial collapse broke their marriage. She moved back to Denver with the kids. She works as an HR coordinator for a hospital system. She doesn't speak to me. Victor was indicted for wire fraud. It turned out he had forged my mom's signature on some of the loan documents. And me, Bright North Studio, just celebrated its 3rd anniversary. We have 45 employees. We did $15 million in revenue last year. I stood on a stage in Austin last month, giving a keynote speech to 500 female founders. The topic was ownership. I told them my story. I told them about the dinner. I told them about the betrayal. I told them this: your talent is the asset, not the building, not the LLC, not the family legacy. You are the asset. And the moment you realize that, no one can ever steal from you again. I walked off that stage to a standing ovation. I checked my phone backstage. There was a text from my dad. He texts me on holidays now. Saw you on LinkedIn. You look happy. Proud of you. I looked at it. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt free. I deleted the text. I grabbed my bag, and I went to meet my team for dinner. We went to Lucia's. I sat at the head of the table. I ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on the list. I looked around at the faces of the people who had bet on me when I had nothing. To the future, I said, raising my glass. To the north, they replied. We drank, we laughed. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't waiting for permission. I was exactly where I belonged. If this story resonated with you, if you have ever been the person doing all the work while someone else takes the credit, I want you to do something for me. Stop waiting for them to give you what you deserve. They won't. Take it. Build your own north. Write your own contract. And never, ever let anyone tell you that you are just a placeholder in your own life. I'm Lena Hart, and I'm signing off.